We hope you'll stay safe and have a good evening.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans is committed to their clients, team members, and communities. Resources for people experiencing financial hardship are available online at rocketmortgage.com. From DuckDuckGo, a privacy company committed to making privacy online simple. Used by millions, they offer private search and tracker blocking with one download. DuckDuckGo, privacy simplified. And from the Annie E. Casey Foundation.
Prepare for a summer of adventure with KERA's Summer Learning Challenge, a STEAM-based educational toolkit designed to help students avoid summer learning loss. By completing activities, children earn points towards special KERA and PBS prizes. You can also help your children learn and grow with complimentary educational programs found on KERA Kids 24/7. To participate in KERA's Summer Learning Challenge, visit kera.org/summer today.
Hi, I'm Jiyoung Kim from Frisco. I recently moved to Texas from Miami. I was an avid fan of my station back in Florida, and now I am an avid fan of KERA. I believe that public radio is a non-biased and trustful source of news, and it has helped me so much in gaining my knowledge and understanding of American society. Public radio has done a lot for me, and that's why I'm proud to support it in return by being a member of this station. KERA, go public.
This is member-supported public radio for North Texas, KERA 90.1. You can become a member anytime at kera.org. We are your source for NPR News and the BBC World Service. This is 90.1 KERA, Dallas, Fort Worth, Denton. Streaming at kera.org. KERA, go public.
Hey y'all, from NPR, I'm Sam Sanders. It's been a minute. So much news to talk about this week. The Supreme Court issued two big decisions, one on protections for LGBTQ employees, and the other preserving DACA. We talk with one DACA recipient who says, don't let the ruling fool you. Her fight's not over yet.
It's definitely a step in the right direction, but for me, it's still... what's the next steps? What are we doing after this? We've been here so many times.
And then I ask a black British author about what it's like to watch Americans take the lead on a global protest movement against police brutality.
The riots in America, they are way more violent to the protesters. We don't have tear gas, we don't have rubber bullets, we don't have all of those things. In America, it feels like it's like you got to be all in and you've got to be ready for danger. It's terrifying.
Stay with us as we process this big, big week. More after these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. The Trump campaign says that 6 advanced staffers working on setting up the president's rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, have tested positive for COVID-19. NPR's Aisha Roscoe reports that health experts have raised concerns about the spread of the virus at tonight's indoor rally.
Trump campaign spokesman Tim Murtaugh says that campaign staff are tested before events. He said hundreds of tests were performed and the 6 staffers who tested positive were immediately placed under quarantine. Murtaugh said that no one who tested positive will be at the rally. The campaign is performing temperature checks and handing out masks to attendees ahead of the event, but no one will be required to wear a mask and social distancing will not be possible. Coronavirus cases have been on the rise in Oklahoma and other parts of the country. Public officials have warned the crowded indoor gathering will put attendees at risk for spreading the virus. Aisha Roscoe, NPR News.
A federal judge has rejected a Trump administration request to halt the publication of John Bolton's memoir. As NPR's Colin Dwyer reports, the judge's order also reserves some harsh words for the former national security advisor.
With hundreds of thousands of copies of the book already distributed, Judge Royce Lamberth says, quote, "The horse is already out of the barn." In other words, it would be pointless to block John Bolton's memoir of his time in the Trump administration. But the judge said that Bolton had gambled with national security in his rush to print, and that he remains in legal jeopardy as a result. The rebuke was enough for Trump to call the order a big court win, even though the judge ultimately ruled against his administration's legal team. Trump and his deputies have dismissed the book's explosive claims as just so many lies and fake stories. Colin Dwyer, NPR News.
Lawmakers in Minnesota adjourned a special session early this morning after failing to agree on police reforms. Mark Zedeklik of Minnesota Public Radio has more.
Republicans control the Minnesota Senate, Democrats the state House. Both passed different plans regarding police regulations and training and standards for the use of deadly force. While they were unable to pass legislation, Republicans and Democrats both moved to restrict or bar chokeholds and neck restraints, like the one that took the life of George Floyd on Memorial Day. They also agreed that police officers should be required to intervene if they witness excessive force by fellow officers. For NPR News, I'm Mark Zedeklik in St. Paul.
In Seattle, a shooting overnight in the city's protest zone has left one man dead, another person in critical condition. Police say they initially had trouble getting to the scene after they were met by what they called a violent crowd that prevented their safe access to the victims. Protesters have cordoned off several blocks near a police station in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood following protests against police brutality. Authorities are still looking for that gunman. You're listening to NPR News. As the Black Lives Matter movement against racial injustice and police brutality gains momentum, Americans took to the streets in largely peaceful commemoration of the symbolic end of slavery. NPR's Amy Held reports smaller groups used ropes and chains to dismantle several Confederate statues during Juneteenth demonstrations.
In Raleigh, demonstrators cheered as they toppled a statue from a Confederate monument at the North Carolina state capitol. In San Francisco, they took down a statue of Francis Scott Key, a slaveholder who wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. And in Washington, D.C., demonstrators tore down the city's only Confederate statue of General Albert Pike and set it on fire. D.C. police put out the blaze but did not interact with protesters, to the chagrin of President Trump, who tweeted, "The D.C. police were not doing their job. Quote, these people should be immediately arrested. A disgrace to our country." Amy Held, NPR News.
The country's biggest movie chain is changing its position on face masks. AMC Theaters now says customers will be required to wear the masks when the theaters reopen next month. The theater chain says those who forget one can buy one for about $1. AMC, the theater company, became a target on social media after officials said it would defer to local authorities on whether those masks were required. I'm Janine Herbst, and you're listening to NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Annie E. Casey Foundation, using research and evidence to develop solutions that help families and communities create a brighter future for young people. More information is available at aecf.org.
As North Texans grapple with the coronavirus pandemic, KERA is here to provide information and resources to support our communities. KERA helps, connects you with public services, nonprofits, funds, and organizations that are working to help people in need. Learn how to get help or lend a helping hand at kera.org/help or visit kera.org/ayuda for resources in Spanish.
All right, man, my first big question for you, given these two big